Continuing on with XGen, I'm going to show you how to make the hair dynamic. So what I have here is a sphere, and if I click play, you'll see that, let me select it so you can actually see. You can see that all it's doing is kind of spinning back and forth, taking place within 60 frames, and it's just the rotate Y value. So I'm going to start by adding a description. So I'm going to create a new description. This will be let's just make this dynamic and dynamic. And I'm going to, just for the sake of this exercise here, this will be groomable splines. And then click create. All right, so as I do that, you shouldn't have all those messages prompted. That was just me overwriting a current description that I had. But taking a look at what we have here, under grooming, there are a couple of things I can do here to help myself in kind of altering how these hairs look before I get into modifiers. So I can increase the density and then as well as the length. So the density here, you can go a little higher so you can see what's going on. Now, visibility, this is for these guides that we're seeing here. Now, what I have here at the top, my XGen preview, this is not currently set to preview automatically, which works for me here in this case. So if I disable the visibility, you can see that I have all of my hair fibers. And obviously increasing the density can potentially slow you down. All right, with that said now, I can go ahead and disable that and just focus on the guides. Another thing I can do under primitives is I can add that taper. This is where we'll definitely need to see what's going on. So switching kind of back and forth here until I get this to look how I want it to look. Let me zoom in. Under primitives, again, I can go ahead and create that taper. Update that just to make the edges or the tips of these hair fibers softer. All right, so that's probably good enough for now. Back under grooming, I can disable that, turn on my guides for visibility. So I'm going to actually groom this a little bit. So let's scroll up and let me do, for example, pose. So here we go. So as I'm doing this, you can see that the hair fibers are starting to lay down. I'm going to increase the brush size. So if I press and hold down B, I'm going to increase that, kind of bring down these fibers. This has actually already crashed on me once, so I'm hoping this won't do it. So while I'm at it, let me actually do a file, save scene as, and then hoping for a better round 2 here. All right, so this is probably good enough. Again, I'm going to be adding some modifiers, so that should kind of clear up some of this kind of imperfection. If I want to preview how this looks, I can certainly turn that on and then turn off visibility. But, you know, sometimes it really helps just to kind of see the guides instead. But for the next part, for the modifiers, let me turn that on and then just turn on update preview automatically. And then in this case, maybe I'll just disable the guides just to see this a little bit better. And then go under modifiers, and then I'm going to add a noise. Right away, you'll see it kind of break that up, and it just looks a little bit better. I can add the frequency, the magnitude, and such. So you can preview that. Maybe that's a little too much. So maybe I'll do 1.5. Okay, so I can always go back to this. Let me add, in this case, clumping. So when I add clumping, nothing happens at first until you choose Setup Maps. Up at the top, you have Density, and then click on Generate. The Generate will actually generate these guides, and the guides will essentially drive the clumping. Now, I don't need it to be too dense, so I'm going to bring that down, click Save, and then you can see that these little fibers, you can kind of see what they're doing up top. They're essentially kind of clumping together. A couple of things I can do here with that is increase the clump value, start to look a little better. I can also use this scale. See, so that can kind of really allow you to customize this a little bit further. See, a little bit higher, and it just becomes a little bit too much. I don't want it to be, you know, that drastic. There's also a noise effect, so I can go in and add a little bit of that and just kind of clump some of this together. You can see with and without. Go back and forth so you can see what's going on here. You know, also too, let me see, maybe I'll just increase the length here a little bit more. Sometimes you have to turn them on, turn it off. Here we go, just a little bit of length. And then again, under modifiers, see if you can tweak this to your liking. So you can get these to clump together even more. It's kind of how you're seeing here. Okay, I'm going to add the animation. So under modifiers, I'm actually going to do a couple of things. I'm going to disable update preview automatically. I'm going to, let me see what else I can disable to make this a little bit easier. Let's see if I can just do it as is without anything showing, since I'm having some issues actually getting through this lesson without crashing. So under modifiers, I'm going to add my anim wires. Nothing will happen. I'm going to create maps. And again, the density here, let's see, we can generate this. We don't need that many, so it just kind of depends on how many guides you want there. That should be okay. And then we'll just click create here. It's going to go through this saving window, saving points and generating clumping maps. This may take a minute, so you'll see this progress bar. You know, sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. So with that said, now let me click on Create Hair System. So now it places these guides, and then I'm going to select all of these settings here, and then make curves dynamic. Okay, so with that, these are now dynamic, and then I'm going to close out of this window. And then I'm going to attach the hair system. And then when I rewind and play back, you'll see that these are animating. Now, you'll kind of see that little ghosting effect. Some things will stay. Well, that's because, you know, currently our hair fibers are not showing. And, you know, this is where I'm kind of scared. Let me save this. I'm a little scared to turn that on just because, you know, it may react kind of in. Let's see, let me just turn that on, see what happens. Visibility. Okay, I think it's just catching up. So that's, like I said, that's the scary part. So here's the animated, all the little animated fibers. Technically, your hair system is, there it is, it finally refreshed. So the hair system is following that. So how you're seeing these curves move, these dynamic follicles move, is exactly how this hair system will follow. One thing I want to note, and let me just turn that off, under the attribute editor, you do have this hair system shape tab in which you do have collisions that you can access, as well as clump and hair shape that you can access. And then scrolling down here, we have some dynamic properties. So for example, something like the bend resistance, if I added a little bit of that, that's going to alter how much these curves move around, you know, kind of an attempt to slow them down. Also forces, you know, if I add a little bit of damping here and then try to rewind and play back, they may kind of actually, here they go. You'll just have a little bit more of a smoother motion as as these fibers move. So if I increase the damping, and then I'll probably increase the, where we got here, the bend resistance, just really something to play with, stretch resistance, all of these things will alter how these hair follicles move. And again, if you were to go back to XGen, and then, afraid to do this, but if you preview, again, you'll kind of see how this will work. Now, if I rewind and try to play this back, this is where it may crash, and at which point I will just stop the lesson. But this actually explains, this lesson does go through exactly what you need to do to create a dynamic system. As you'll see in the outliner, a nucleus is created as well as a rigid node. So I'm just going to hit click play, see what happens, but otherwise I hope you enjoyed this lesson. And if I were to click actually on this to update preview automatically, I feel like this is where it's going to really kind of stop. Here we go, and there it is.